They know how to get clients. They've got a decent business, but they're working harder than ever and really making less than ever. This is a model that they can implement pretty quickly and really see some dramatic increases.
Welcome to the Deep Specialization Podcast, the show where we blend focus, strategy, and client intimacy in order to scale and simplify our businesses and our lives. I'm your host, Corey Quinn. Let's jump into the show. Today, I'm joined by Jantsch. He's a marketing consultant, speaker, Wall Street Journal best-selling author of Duct Tape Marketing. You've probably read it. He's also the author of The Referral Engine, The Self-Reliant Entrepreneur, and The Ultimate Marketing Engine. Quite a prolific author, John. You're also the founder of Duct Tape Marketing Consultant Network, which trains and licenses independent consultants and agencies to use the duct tape methodology. His keynotes and training motivate and engage audiences worldwide at industry and trade events. Welcome, John.
Thanks for having me, Corey.
So I've been super excited about this because I've been familiar with your work for a long time. And I think I was first introduced to you I think you were interviewed on Chandler Bolt's podcast. He's the author of a book called Published. And so I've been following you for a while and really excited to have you on the show. I wanted to bring you on because I want to dive deep with you into the world of fractional CMOs. And I know that you are developing some IP there, and I really want to just get your perspective. First off, like what has led to this explosion of this role of a fractional CMO? What is this thing?
Yeah, I think it's like a lot of things. Trends come about because some things collide. We could certainly blame our friend the pandemic for maybe accelerating the trend a bit, but you have a lot of senior marketing people or people with marketing experience that look at this model. I mean, fractional everything has become kind of acceptable. So I think a lot of folks are looking at that as, hey, that's something I could do. I could hang my shingle out and I work for a couple of clients instead of, going to the office every day. So that's half of it, I think. The other half is that I think a lot of businesses, particularly, like I said, during the pandemic, kind of got caught without a strategy. And I think, business had been great, the markets were great, so everybody was great, but then all of a sudden tough times came around, and that's when you saw people who didn't really have a strategy that helped them dominate their market or even get close to their customers, really got burned. And so increasingly, we're seeing a lot of businesses who maybe thought, oh, strategy, that's nice, that's fluffy, are saying, you know what, we need that. So I think those things coming together have really kind of made a nice environment for growth in this industry.
So based on that, what are some of the differences between a traditional sort of in-house CMO model versus this fractional role?
Yeah, well, I mean, the first kind of big, giant, obvious one is that it's a part-time role in some ways, and not part-time thinking necessarily, but just not there paid on a W-2, sitting in every meeting, at a desk. So it's really tailored, I think, for an organization that feels like they're not ready for that. I mean, realistically, if you just think about marketing budgets in the very, very traditional sense, 6, 7, 8%, right, of revenue. Well, you've got to be about a $30 million business really to be at a point revenue wise where it makes sense to bring in a $250,000, $300,000 full-time salary for that role. And so I think for a lot of organizations that are under that, but they want to be that $30 million company, feel like, hey, we've got strategic marketing function in our business. We just don't need somebody full-time.
Yeah. And so maybe you could expand on that a little bit. Like what does a CMO do that's different than, let's say, someone who's focused on copywriting or lead gen? Like what is the CMO role really for?
Well, so the CMO role is not writing copy, is not writing emails, generally speaking. Really what I think the core difference, because a lot of folks think in terms of the tactics, some of the things you mentioned. And so a lot of times they'll hire agencies to do tactics. But the CMO role is much larger in that it is certainly guiding the messaging. It's guiding the focus of, product to target market fit. It is somebody that should be very focused on the metrics. A lot of times, agencies are focused on the metric that matters to them, like website leads or something like that, when there's a heck of a lot of metrics that really matter to the organization meeting their overall strategic goals. And then one role that I don't think gets talked about enough is the CMO really should be the advocate for the customer inside the organization. So they should be also very focused on the customer experience, on the service experience, on the success of the customer. And it's kind of nice to have that role, have somebody that's kind of the watchdog, if you will, for that role, because a lot of times organizations will do things that are efficient, that, are easier for them, that maybe sound better for the bottom line. And so having that person saying, wait, is that really what we want to do, is another role that I think that seat should play.
That's awesome. I love that idea of having sort of a seat at the table that represents the customer, whereas those that can be overlooked very easily in an organization, especially a fast-growing organization. So it's having someone who's dedicated to being the voice of the customer within the organization. Love that. Are there certain types of businesses that a fractional CMO is better suited for, or is it really any kind of business could benefit from bringing on a fractional?
I think it's probably any kind of business. I mean, let's be honest. You probably have to be a certain size, because this role is going to come with, even a fraction of a CMO's salary is going to be, a significant hit for some folks. And then, of course, there's all the things that have to be done that, that are probably going to be additional costs. So, right off the bat, it's got to be a company of a certain size, or a company that knows they can get to a certain size. Let's put it that way too.
Sure.
But then I think they're probably, after that, I think it's every company. And I think increasingly, it's going to get harder and harder. It's already gotten harder to cut through the clutter with just the, run ads or game the search engines. I mean, a lot of that's going away. We've been pretty lazy as marketers to get away with a lot of stuff the last 10 years, quite frankly. And I think the changing technology, the changing landscape of the buyer, if we're not really, really putting out information that person wants or is entertained by or sees as valuable, it's going to get harder and harder to connect with customers. And I think that to me suggests somebody who's on the cutting edge of what's going on with changing technologies, and somebody who is very, very focused on, understanding how we cut through the clutter. And that to me starts with strategy.
Let's look at it from the other side. Let's say you are maybe an in-house marketer and you, like you said, are thinking about going out of house and doing sort of marketing strategy for businesses. What are some of the sort of the skills, the background, qualities that make for a great fractional CMO?
Really, all you need to do is buy my stuff. No, had to throw that in there.
That was an underhand pitch.
That was. So, I mean, you don't have to have 40 years of experience, but certainly having some level of experience working in varied industries, or maybe similar industry to, some companies you want to try to help. I mean, there's no question that working in a number of companies, you see a lot of different problems. You see a lot of different challenges. You see different ways in which, things fit together, pieces fit together, what channels are important, for certain types of businesses. So a level of experience, and I recently did some research with fractional CMOs. We surveyed 200 of them, and on average they had 10 years of marketing role experience. We didn't ask for fractional CMO experience, but marketing role experience. And I think increasingly, there's a world out there of 30, 40, 50, 60, $100 million businesses that need somebody that's maybe classically trained as a CMO. But there's a lot of $3, $4, $10 million businesses that just need somebody who can actually set a direction, who can orchestrate the various moving parts. That doesn't necessarily mean that somebody who has managed a marketing spend in a Fortune 500 company. So, a lot of times people get really caught up in do I have the experience or the chops, to say I'm a fractional CMO. And I think that if you can provide, value to this kind of growing market that needs strategy, then, the answer is yes.
What does a let's say, a full practice look like for a fractional CMO? What type of workload? How many clients are they looking at?
Yeah, so there's a couple models. I think in the very sort of traditional, maybe people that say, "Oh, I've been doing that for 10 years." That model was somebody that was in a CMO role, jumped out on their own. They had contacts who said, "Hey, can you come look at what we're doing?" And ultimately they sold a fourth of their time, to 4 companies. They may be very well paid, but it's a tough model to scale, obviously. But again, there's a heck of a lot of people making a living doing that exact approach. The approach that we've taken and do teach to the folks that license our methodology is that part of the challenge with that model, I already mentioned you can't scale it, but part of the reason is because you just kind of fit with what the client says they think they need. And it's like, "No, we need you at the Tuesday sales meeting, and we need this and we need that." And so you get pulled in and basically sucked into, whatever happens at that company. And then, you do it all over again at company number 2. But what we've tried to do is create a framework and a scope where we're able to come into somebody and say, "Look, here's what I'm going to do. Here's what you're going to do. Here are the results we hope to get. Here's the cost for it. And, we know through years of experience what you need, and we'll direct and guide." Obviously, every company is a little different, but I think by starting with that framework or that scope, you're actually able to, really control the engagement. The other thing that I think it allows you to do is if you're working with a repeatable scope or a repeatable system, you get really good at it. You get faster at it. You can deliver more value doing it, and you can actually start to delegate elements. I think that's sometimes the fallacy of this role, fractional CMO, is that the thought is you're buying my big fat brain, right? And if I have to come in and have genius ideas, and I can't delegate any of that, so I get really sucked in. And so if you're working from a repeatable process that works, you certainly can delegate a great deal of it. You can start having account managers do it, and you can start having other consultants in your firm. So we've actually shown people how to scale it to 20, 30 clients, using a model that certainly is probably an agency hybrid in some people's eyes, but is a model that works for a very, very large swath of the market.
Well, what I love about that, John, is that you're doing, first off, you're guiding your clients. Clients, in my experience, they want to be guided. They want to be led, especially with someone with a C title, right? Even the fractional CMO.
That's right.
They don't want to be telling the CMO what to do. The CMO needs to come in with a plan, a strategy. And the fact that it is process driven, and it sounds like your methodology is great in that respect, that the fractional CMO doesn't have to develop this whole methodology. They can lean into the thing that you built that allows them to reach that scale. Personally, as I was leaving my corporate world jobs or career, I should say, behind, I stepped into a little bit of the fractional CMO world for a minute, and I did exactly what you suggested you shouldn't do, which is here, I'm going to come in and save the world, and I'm going to join all the meetings and so on and so forth. I definitely did it the wrong way because I was, approaching it like a part-time job. And I think the mindset, I learned that wasn't the right thing for me because that wasn't scalable. And I think it sounds like your methodology is definitely built for more scale. Could you share more about the methodology that you built and that you're sharing and licensing out?
Sure. Yeah. So the way that we actually work, we actually call it Fractional CMO Plus, because a lot of again, I'm talking about probably that mid-market size firm. And a lot of those firms, they don't have a marketing team. Maybe they have somebody doing social media or something, or they've hired some third-party folks to do things, but they don't have a marketing department or a marketing team. So we build out the strategy. And then, of course, the logical next question is, well, this is awesome, but who's going to do all this? So we actually add, implementation. So effectively what I brought to the market, and we've been actually doing this for 10 or 15 years. Honestly, we have leaned into the fractional CMO positioning over the last couple of years because, frankly, if I would have called it that 10 years ago, people would have thought I was crazy. And so, now the market's ready for it. They understand it. They get it. And so it makes sense to lean into the positioning. But the big innovation, I suppose, that we brought 10, 15 years ago was that we would go and meet with somebody, run them through a strategy process that we use. And they were like, great, this is awesome. I want you to come work for me. And we basically say, great. First thing we're going to do is there's a process that we call strategy first. It takes 30 to 45 days. It costs this price. And that's phase one. That's what you get to buy. That's the only thing you can buy. We don't pass go without doing it. Now that plan, of course, is going to, give us the work we need. We're going to narrow our target market focus. We're going to come up with messaging that actually differentiates you. We're going to use that messaging to really build out all kinds of initiatives. We are going to build a complete end-to-end customer journey. We're going to take a strategic editorial approach to content, and we're going to identify the priorities for the next 6 months for your marketing. At the end of that, again, wink, wink, nod, nod. You can go and do it yourself, or, we'll do it.
Right.
I mean, 100% of the time, it is like, it's like, man, you are now our trusted advisor. Please, sir, execute the plan. So it really, in a lot of ways, I did it because I couldn't make the other way work, where I just came in and did tactics. And what we found was this actually helped us attract the right client, and it created the right relationship with that client. We're no longer a vendor. I mean, we really are their trusted advisor.
Hey, it's Corey. I hope you're enjoying this episode. And I want to let you know that I have a new best-selling book that has just come out that gives you my proven system to escape founder-led sales. It's called Anyone, Not Everyone, and it's been endorsed by Aaron Ross, April Dunford, Dr. Benjamin Hardy, John Ruhlin, and many others. If you'd like to get the audiobook absolutely for free, there's a link below in the description, or you could simply go to anyonenoteveryone.com and start listening right now. I love the idea that I think of it as a roadmap, and you get paid to develop the roadmap. So you're, like you said, you're on the inside, all the metrics, all the problems, and you have a solution.
That's right.
That you're positioned to,
And you're really pointing to what I think is how many companies get brought in and they're like, give us a proposal for what we should do. Well, I don't know enough about your company, right? So you're absolutely right. We get to propose the right thing because we've gone through the right process.
Exactly. And they're effectively already in business with you, and you've diagnosed their problem in a way they probably haven't thought of, and you can provide the solution. It's a very elegant way to go about it. So what are some success stories or case studies of fractional CMOs that you've maybe been involved in that have been successful? Like what does success look like for the client?
Yeah, so I'll start with a client on our end, and then I'll talk about the agency end that maybe we've certified. So probably one of our greatest success stories is a company that you wouldn't think would necessarily hire this type of role, a remodeling contractor. They were a couple $1 million in business at the time, and what they were struggling with ultimately was just they couldn't differentiate. Anybody who said they remodeled homes, they were in competition with. Fact of the matter was they did far better work, they far better service. But again, were really struggling to differentiate themselves. And so we came in, developed a strategic plan, really helped them understand how they were different, put them in the right channels. You think about this is 10 years ago. You think about a remodeling contractor that is now producing content and is on social media and is running ads to different things, creating YouTube videos. And so we were able to really dominate their market because of the opportunity there. It was a local business, but it would certainly they weren't competing with people that were suggesting they do the things we were suggesting. They are today. They were a $2 million business at the time. They are today a $50 million business, and
awesome.
They certainly have competition, but they are clearly in a fairly large market. The 100-pound gorilla in their market because of taking a strategic approach when really nobody else was.
Beautiful.
So in terms of people that have licensed our system, Debbie Howard had a business that focuses on a niche, senior living. So, all the care facilities and things that are out there, a very growing business as people are population's aging. And, she came in, she had a nice business, $2 million, maybe 10 or 12 staff members. And she saw that she didn't really have a systematic approach. So she adopted our system. And now I won't take all the credit. She's done amazing things. But, today they are, sitting at $10 million and, staff of 50 and, are innovating like crazy in the industry. And, she really credits a lot of the structure that we were able to give her, to being able to grow that practice.
That's awesome. That's really fantastic. What are some misconceptions or challenges associated with implementing sort of a fractional CMO model?
Well, I think probably the biggest one is scope creep. That's problem probably for everybody, but our model is the strategy is pretty easy to contain, right? It's like, here's what we're going to do, here's all the steps, we've done it 1,000 times, we've got it on lockdown. That part's pretty easy. But then you go into a retainer model. I mean, our model is that we want to come up with a number that you're comfortable paying us for the rest of your life. And that's our approach. And then let us execute from that, right? Well, the problem with that is if we have to be very mindful of how much time we can invest, or how much time we can put in the client. And it's, again, a lot of, this came from me. And so it probably comes from a lot of the people that I've hired over the years. We see what needs to be done and we want to do it. We see what the possibilities are if we do X and we want to do it. And so you have to be very mindful of margin in that type of arrangement. And, really you have a budget, you have a time budget, you have a lot of budget requirements. If you want to stay, our goal is to stay at 50 to 60% margin on a retainer basis with a client. And to do that, you have to stay pretty disciplined.
That makes sense. And then from a business perspective, what should they be looking for? Let's say that they're maybe listening to this, they're saying, oh, okay, I'm ready. I think I'm open to hiring a fractional CMO. What should they be looking for? Like what are the candidates that they should take seriously?
Yeah, a couple of the things we've talked about, check out what their background is, where have they worked, where have they had experiences, what industries. That doesn't have to be your industry, frankly. That's a trap some people fall into. That you actually want a variety of experience and enough experience at a level that's going to actually bring you along, right? Somebody that's worked in a $50 million company is probably going to have things to say to somebody that's in a $10 million company that wants to go to 50 million. So, certainly the right experience is important. But secondly, if they come in and say, okay, what do you need? And don't seem to have a structure or a process or a framework that they can work from, that's probably a red flag. And to me, and it doesn't mean that they have to have written a book or something like that, but if they don't have a process, there's going to be a lot of wasted time. Even if you get to a good point, there's going to be a lot of wasted time. So why not go with somebody that's done something that has a repeatable system that they could say, okay, here's what we do first. Here's what we need second. Because if your idea of strategy is getting everybody in a room, with Post-it notes and, having this one big meeting, you're probably not going to get very far. So have somebody have a plan and a process. And then I would say also, I would look pretty hard to what kind of resources they can bring. Do they have partners that they can bring in certain areas? Do they have, like, maybe you have some very odd need, or a very specific need for a certain type of expertise? Can you tap into their, I'll age myself here, their Rolodex of bench that they can bring to bear too. Those three elements, I think, are at least starting points for, what you want to look for. And then the final one, truly, if you're going to look at this role as a partner, as a trusted advisor, there certainly has to be some chemistry there as well. Yeah. Are they asking you the right questions? Do they seem to care about what you care about in the business? Those are things that you certainly, maybe those are sort of gut feel things, but those are important.
Yeah, those are definitely important. So just to feed this back to you, experience is important. Definitely check out the experience. Do they have a process? Do they come with vetted resources that they could actually, help you to execute? And then is there a chemistry there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You listened well, Corey.
Yeah. I was taking notes. And so as a business owner, what should I expect to pay a fractional CMO?
Sure. So there's probably, we probably could come up with some sort of sliding scale by revenue, but paying more doesn't always bring you more, but I think you should be expecting, somewhere in the $5,000 to $10,000 a month range as a, fee. Now, again, that's going to depend on what they're bringing, what's baked into that. There's some, we have some amount of deliverable baked in. I mean, we take care of website and content and some SEO inside of our feeds. Obviously things, print media, advertising, things of that nature will fall outside of that, of course. But that's that's the range that you probably should be expecting, and that's why this is probably a $2 or $3 million business. That probably is ready to do that, or a business that certainly wants to go to that 2, 5, 10 million.
Yeah, beautiful. And there's plenty of those businesses available, and they definitely need help. So, is there anything else regarding like a great fit for someone who may be considering, licensing your methodology? You mentioned they have a number of years of experience. They've done a number of things. Like who would be an ideal fit for being able to come in and really, make a lot of use out of this methodology?
So there really are two people that we see all the time that have tremendous success. So that person that maybe has a lot of years, maybe 20 years of experience, but they've really never done their own business. And so we can meet them, right in startup phase and give them, save them years, of building out this process, of building out even their website or, just all the things to get started, the positioning, the messaging. I mean, we just have years and years of tools that they're going to acquire. Now it's not magic fairy dust. They still are going to have to work and go out and get clients, but we'll give them a real head start. We'll mitigate a ton of the risk because they'll be able to focus on delivering, from day one, a process that we've developed and can train them on. The second group is, and there's a growing group of these folks. They've been successful at getting clients. They have really more of a consultancy or an agency model where they're doing a lot of the tactics, like, somebody calls them and says, "Oh, you do this. Okay, I need this, this, and this," kind of a la carte menu, package almost. And what those folks are seeing is there's a ton of pressure on pricing tactics. People are, AI is emboldening people to, be able to buy websites for $500 theoretically. Yeah. And so the folks that they know how to get clients, they've got a decent business, but they're working harder than ever and really making less than ever. This is a model that they can implement pretty quickly and really see some dramatic increases. In fact, it's kind of funny, but what we've seen over the years is if you sell tactics, there's going to be a lot of pressure on the price because somebody will shop this tactic against this tactic, right? Yeah. If you run somebody through strategy first and become a trusted advisor, you can charge twice as much for the same tactic because now what you are is you're orchestrating, and you're running the show, so to speak. And as long as you are executing, as long as they're seeing results, there's a lot less, questioning about like, what are we going to do this month? And how much is that going to cost? And how many hours do I get? So it changes the relationship in the right way.
Yeah. I mean, I like the sound of getting paid twice as much for the same tactics. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
John, if I had known that this was around when I left my corporate world, I may have gone a different direction. So it sounds really, really useful for those folks. I'm leaning towards the 20 years experience, maybe not have ever launched a business themselves. And I imagine there's quite a few of those folks, post-pandemic who are considering leaving a corporate career and stepping out on their own. So I think that there's potentially a lot of interest here. So
fastest growing age group of starting businesses right now is people in their 50s. Okay.
Well, I think you've obviously thought a lot about this. You have a lot of years of experience that you've been able to pour into this, and it sounds like a wonderful methodology. Is there anything else that we should cover while we talk about this topic of fractional CMOs?
Well, you did a great job questioning. I don't have anything really else to add. I mean, I'd invite people to, I'm sure you're going to probably ask me, but I'd invite people Please. To they want to learn more about this. It's just ducttapemarketing.com, DUCTTAPE marketing.com. Whether you are a business that's thinking about hiring a fractional CMO, or you're one of these agency consultant folks that want to learn about our licensing program, you can find it all there.
Beautiful. And John knows his stuff, guys. So definitely check it out if this is something you're interested in. John, thanks so much for coming on the show. This has been awesome.
Thanks. It was fun.
That's it for today. I'm Corey Quinn, and I hope you join me again next time on the Deep Specialization Podcast. If you received value from this show, please go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. Thanks, and we'll see you soon.